Right, hello, welcome to another lesson on methods. The main theme of this lesson again is going to be to take a program and break it down into little steps, little chunks, like little pieces, and then write methods for that little part. And again, a method just performs like one little part of the program, one task, and then to piece those little pieces together, put them together, and so that the program runs and does as is intended, right? And so when you start off coding, that's kind of a goal, is to have it, break it down into little tasks and then program those tasks individually, and those tasks will be set up in methods. So before we get to that, I just wanted to say, how would you call the method? So these are method headings, and then if we wanted to use these methods in main, how would you use them? So the first one's printing out some address information. Second one's finding the area of, I don't know, a rhombus or something like that. I think in rhombus you multiply the diagonals and take it times 1/2 or something like that. So anyways, pause the video and figure out how would you call these from main before we get to the main lesson. Okay, so the first one would be, I'm just going to type the name of the method. So I'm inside of main again, and I'm just going to type print address exactly the way it's spelled, and then I'm going to pass in the street number 123, and the street is Sesame. How do you spell Sesame? We'll say it like that, Sesame Street. And then the state will be, of course, Minnesota. Actually, don't know where Sesame Street is, but so we're going to pass in an int, that's the street number, the name of the street, and then the name of the state. So 2 strings and 1 int there. We don't need a return value here because it's void. So all it's going to do is some print statement, so nothing gets returned to main here. All right, and that is different than the find area, where that one returns a double, which I'm guessing represents the area of the shape. So your answer here should be something like double area, right? So we're going to make a double variable called whatever you want to call it. Then we're going to set that equal to whatever is returned by the find area method. And that find area method will need the 2 diagonals coming in, so we can just do whatever we want, blah, 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 whatever the diagonals are, pass those in. So 2 doubles. And then again, the area will be stored in this area variable because it returns a double. All right, so that would calculate the area and store it there. All right, so the task for today, whoops, sorry about that, is we are going to do our palindrome program again. And again, palindrome is a word that's spelled the same forwards as it is backwards. So some examples of palindromes are like level, spelled the same forward and backwards. Taco cat is spelled the same forward and backwards. So those are palindromes. So we want to create this program that just tells is that a palindrome, yes or no. So it'll just take a word and then return either yes or no, or is a palindrome, not a palindrome, right? And we already did this in chapter 4, but all I want to do different now is when we did it before, we did one big method. Okay, so now, not one big method. Yeah, we did one, I guess, big method called main. Right now I want to break it down into little tasks and then call those pieces from main and fit it all together. Right, so we're going to be redoing palindrome just broken down into methods, and you can use your old code from palindrome if you want to cut out pieces of that, copy and paste out pieces, but in general it's a different approach to programming. Okay, so what you're going to need is an editor. Just make a palindrome one. All right, and then obviously we'll have a main, and then we're going to start to sketch out what do you think the little pieces are. So actually, once you've got this set up, I would pause this video and then sketch out what do you think the little pieces or little steps you would need. And you don't have to write any code yet, just the big picture. You can even write it in comments if you want, like the different methods. Okay, and along the way I might think about like what is the input and output to each method, like what needs to come in and what needs to go out. So there's not one right answer to this, so my answer here in a little bit might be a little different, but you can do it however you want. But pause the video and see if you can figure out what would the methods be. What would you do for methods? Again, there's not one right answer. Okay, so one method we're going to need is to, like the first step I would say is we need to get the word from the user, like the word they want to check for palindrome-ness. All right, and so this would be a method like get word or something like that. And then let's see for input. Depending on how you did this, you could pass in a scanner. If you decide to create the scanner up here in main, you could pass in the scanner, because I think that's the only variable we're going to need to get the word. But since it's only really used in the get word method, I would actually maybe make the scanner variable down here in get word. Okay, so I'm going to actually set it up with no input. And then my output, I definitely think we're going to return the word, which is a string, they enter. So I definitely think there should be a return method, a return variable from get word. Okay, so that means our heading would look something like public static string, because it's returning the string, and then get word with nothing coming in. Okay, and again, in this method, we would have the scanner. So scanner scan equals new scanner. Whoops, system not in. Sorry, my computer is lagging out here for a second. It's always fun. Okay, and you could actually, I know I don't do this in all my code all the time, but you could actually call scan.close right here because we're done using it. So I don't always do that close line, but you could. And actually, when I typed that, it imported scanner for me, so that's kind of nice. All right, so that's the setup for get word. All right. And then after we get the word, I would say the next step is we need to reverse the string, right? Because that's, we're gonna like reverse it and then check if the reverse string is the same as the original string. That's kind of how we did palindrome the first time around. Okay, so we're gonna reverse the string, and then input is going to be the word from the user, the word the user entered. Okay, and then the output is going to be I guess I should say this is a string variable, and then the output is going to be the reversed word, which is again a string. Right, we're definitely going to have something returned to main here, which is the reverse. So we're going to input the original word, and this method's going to come back with the reversed word. Okay, so if we think about the heading for that one, it would be public static. It's going to return a string again and take in a string. So it's going to be reverse string. I'm just going to call it the original word coming in. Okay, so that one will take in original word and return the string reversed. Okay, and then the last step I would say then is check if it is a palindrome. Okay, and then print out yes palindrome or no, or just maybe not a palindrome. Did I spell that wrong? Well, whatever. Hopefully that's how you spell it. Okay, so that would be the last thing, is check if it's a palindrome and print out yes palindrome or not palindrome. Okay, and so again, there's different ways to set this up. You could have this method return a Boolean for like, that would actually maybe make the most sense, is like, you know, yes or no, is it a palindrome? But you could also have the method actually just print out these statements. So it's kind of a choice to you here. But I would set this up as the input. We're going to definitely need the original word and the reversed word, right? Because it has to compare those two to see if it's a palindrome. So we're going to need to pass in those two things, reversed word. Okay, and then the output, again, you could have it return a Boolean here, like yes or no, is it a palindrome? But I'm going to have it be nothing, which is going to be void, and just print in the method. Just print out, just do sysout print in the method. Okay, so if we did the heading for that one, I'll try to fit it on here. Public, it doesn't matter what order you put these methods in down here, to be honest. So I'm going to do public static void, and then check for palindrome or something. Okay, and I'm going to have the original word, and I'm going to have the reversed word. All right, and then that one would just print out whether it's a palindrome or not. Okay, so here is the setup for our methods, right? What it should look like in main, right? This is the high-level view of the step-by-step process. And then here's the actual method headings, the start of them. So at this point, if you haven't already completed this program, that's fine. But pause the video and see if you can fill in these methods, right? You can actually use the code from your own old Palindrome program if you choose to. You could cut and paste it into these methods. And then see if you can figure out how to call them and pass in the different variables. And this is a pretty good challenge, but I'd like you to muddle with it a little bit, try it first, and then if you get stuck, then come back to this video. Okay, so here is your answers. So basically on this first one, I'm just going to call my method. I'm going to pretend that it works. So I'm just going to call getWord. So I'm going to, and getWord, remember, returns a string. So I'm going to do string word equals getWord. And then I don't need to pass in anything to this method. It's just going to use scanner to get the word and then send it back to main. Okay, and then the reverse string is going to take that in. So I'm going to call, what's the name of my method here? Reverse string. So I'm going to copy the actual name so I don't worry about having to type it. So I'm going to call reverse string, pass in the original word, and then this is going to return a string which represents this word being reversed. So I'm going to do string, call it reverse, and set it equal to whatever is returned by my reverse string method. So it takes in this word and returns it in reverse order. Okay, and then now for my check palindrome method, I'm going to go check for palindrome. I'm going to call that method, and it's going to take in the original string and then the reversed. And it has to be in this, well, yeah, it probably should be in this order. It won't actually matter for this particular code, but in general, type them in the order. So my original word in main, I called word. And then the reversed word I called reverse. So I just pass in reverse. And this method doesn't need to return, like it doesn't need to store anything because it's a void method. It's just going to print out, is it a palindrome or not? Okay, so nothing returned here. All right. So now we just got to fill in the methods. Okay, and check for palindrome is just an if. So basically, if the original is equal to the reversed. Okay, so make sure you use that equals here. Then I'm going to do sysout print. Again, we could do a return a boolean there, but let's just do word is a palindrome. Okay, otherwise, let's say not a palindrome. Okay, get word is pretty straightforward. We just got to prompt them to enter a word first before we scan. So please enter a word to check. All right, and then actually scan it. So string word equals scan dot next. I'm probably going to do next line. Okay. And then I want to close the scanner. So I was tempted right here to type return word and return it back into main right away, right? We store it from what they enter and then return it back. But remember, the return ends the method call, so the scanner would not get closed in this situation, right? So I'm actually going to move that up here and do it before I return the word to main so that the scanner will actually close. I'm running low on time here, so I just added in the reverse string code real quick. You could look back to the old palindrome and it would be the same code, but basically this is the code that reverses it, and then we return that reverse at the end of the for loop, at the end of the method.